This is Population Health Weekly. We bring the science to your street. One small habit, one clear choice. Right where real lives meet. Every voice, every choice, every truth that we share.
Since 1960, global life expectancy has jumped from 52 to 73 years. Chronic illness has risen 40% in 3 decades. To match that surge, the regulated pharmaceutical market exploded from $122 billion to $1.5 trillion today, 12-fold growth. These figures exclude booming economies of cosmetics, food supplements, traditional remedies, and medical devices for the elderly. The result is a self-reinforcing loop. More years, more disease, more medicines, more profit. And this cycle is still accelerating every year. So here is the question. Big Pharma gave us longer lives. Now can it afford to keep us healthy without breaking the bank?
This is Population Health Weekly. We bring the science to your street. One small habit, one clear.
Welcome to Population Health Weekly with me, Shehnoor, and my co-host, Erin Rodgers. Hello, Erin.
Hello, Shehnoor, and hello to all of our listeners.
We've been discussing our monthly theme, the rise and rise of the elderly. In 2 episodes posted on each of the past Fridays, we focused on the unforeseen price of the long-term care and how it's distributed worldwide, despite remarkable healthcare advances of the industrial age. Today we focus on medications that become our bedfellow as we grow older. And I will tell a love story that our young listeners might enjoy the most.
Later in the show, I will be presenting the Triad, the fortnightly segment of 3 updates from the biomedical world. My keywords today are digitalization and motor racing. Shehnoor, I can't wait to hear the love story, so let's start with today's question. Big Pharma gave us longer lives. Now can it afford to keep us healthy without breaking the bank?
Erin, you know that question sounds a little abstract to me. But let me take our listeners back to the 1990s, a time when an HIV diagnosis was a death sentence to millions in low-income countries. The only effective medicines, called antiretrovirals, were patented by pharmaceutical companies. They cost over $10,000 per patient per year. In countries where the average income was a few $100s, no one could afford it. Families watched their loved ones die, not because the drugs didn't exist, but because they were priced out of reach. Then a remarkable chain of events unfolded. A determined researcher and advocate named Jamie Love, along with many other citizens, caregivers, and patient groups around the world, began studying patent laws and international trade rules. They realized that India, at that time, did not grant product patents for medicines. That meant Indian pharmaceutical companies could legally copy expensive patented drugs and sell them as generics, exact copies of brand name drugs sold after patents expire. Love and his colleagues connected with an Indian generic manufacturer, Cipla, led by Dr. Yusuf Khwaja Hamied. In 2001, Cipla shocked the world by offering a triple therapy antiretroviral combination for just $350 per patient per year, nearly 30 times cheaper than the quoted price. It was a strategic use of India's patent system at the time. The offer forced global pharma companies to slash their prices drastically. Soon, millions of people in Africa, Asia, and Latin America gained access to the life-saving treatment. Why does this story matter for your elders? Because the same principle applies to many medicines that elderly people need every day. Heart medications, insulin, arthritis drugs, and even some cancer treatments. The price of a drug is rarely just about the cost of manufacturing. It includes years of research, marketing, and most significantly, the protection of a patent. When a country has the legal ability or the bargaining power to produce or buy generics, it can save lives and prevent millions from going bankrupt. But here is where we must be fair to all sides. Pharmaceutical companies argue legitimately that developing a new drug costs over $2 billion, and patents allow them to recover that investment. Without profit, they say, there would be no new medicines for Alzheimer's, Parkinson's, or future pandemics. That is a real concern. The challenge, then, is not to destroy the industry, but to balance the need for innovation with the need for access. That balance starts with research and development culture that supports local production. What I mean is that building a factory is one thing. Shaping an environment that can invent new drugs or produce high quality generics is another. not to mention complementary safety laws that ensure patient protection. It requires years of training, strict quality control, and stable electricity, all of which are expensive. And for very new, still patented drugs, local production is not legally allowed under current international trade rules. So, the most vulnerable elderly patients in countries with historically less pharmaceutical planning may wait a decade or more for the cutting edge treatments that wealthier countries get today. India has certainly been among countries demonstrating how to balance local drug development with a research culture. However, there are always emerging challenges as diseases keep getting more complex. One grandparent has Alzheimer's, another has a rare genetic heart condition, a third has a form of arthritis that only responds to a new biologic drug. Personalized medicines, drugs tailored to your unique DNA, and custom vaccines are the future. They work better and cause fewer side effects, but they are enormously expensive to develop. And because each drug may only help a small number of patients, the Jamie Love model of one generic copy for millions may not work. That is a problem we have only begun to study seriously. And let's be clear, even the best planned countries cannot do everything alone for its elderly. Over 80% of raw ingredients for generic medicines, called active pharmaceutical ingredients, come from just two countries, China and India. If either nation stops exporting due to a pandemic, a trade dispute, or a natural disaster, pharmacies across Africa, Latin America, the Middle East, and even parts of Europe could run empty. That is not a criticism of China or India. They have built remarkable industries. It is simply a fact of global supply chains. As new disease conditions are detected, from new strains of dementia to post viral syndromes, and as new approaches like gene editing or mRNA vaccines are continuously tested, every nation will rely on shared knowledge, open science, and global supply chains. Some degree of interdependence is not a weakness, it's a necessary reality of modern medicine. So let's bring this home to your grandmother, your father, or your own future. As I said at the very start, where you live matters enormously. If your country has a strong health system, invests in local production, and negotiates drug prices like, for example, Australia, South Africa, and Costa Rica, then the medicines are likely affordable and available. If not, a family somewhere may have to choose between buying food and buying a heart pill. The Jamie love story with Cipla, along with countless citizens, caregivers, and patient groups who fought alongside him, proves that affordable drugs are possible. But they do not happen by accident. They happen when voters demand solutions, when scientists share knowledge, and when governments cooperate across borders. Big Pharma can afford to keep us healthy because resources and technology exist. The real question is whether we will insist they do. Let me restate the question and answer clearly. Big Pharma gave us longer lives. Can it afford to keep us healthy without breaking the bank? Yes, it can. But only if citizens, caregivers, and communities demand affordability and access alongside innovation. After all, innovation continues to add years to our lifespan. I've been thinking of inviting Jamie Love to tell his story in his words. We can all join hands to send him an invitation he cannot refuse, despite his schedule. Next week, in our final episode of the series, a caregiving robot that ran out of battery when needed. I hope you will join me. And now let's hear from Erin Rodgers, who brings us three biomedical updates in the fortnightly segment, the Triad. At the start of this show, she has already hinted with two mm, or three keywords. One of them was motor racing. What were the other two, Erin?
Actually, there are three keywords that I dropped for the triad this week: digitalization, motor, and racing.
I always thought that motor racing is one word. And by the way, just this past Sunday, there was a Spanish Grand Prix in Barcelona. It's coinciding with your segment. So, green light to the Triad.
So let's start from motor racing. In alignment with the Chasing Net Zero by 2030 dream, Formula One has introduced advanced sustainable fuel as part of a combination of measures aimed at sustainability. These include use of single use plastics and introduce solarized garages, paddocks, and broadcast centers. As per F1.com, the e-fuel of 2026 season has replaced the blend mixed with 10% ethanol component. The new fuel is made from cutting-edge sources like carbon capture that takes carbon dioxide directly from the air or industrial emissions, municipal waste, and non-food biomass, or a mix of the above. Independent certification ensures that nothing in the e-fuel comes from crude oil. This is probably F1's biggest campaign for sustainability and environmental protection, although the assessment of its impact is likely a few years yet to come. Now, on the drug development front. Interest in anti-cancer treatments and vaccines spiked again late last year after Russian scientists announced successful results of their experimental cancer vaccine called EnteroMix. More recently, NHS Research Scotland has reported encouraging results of a personalized cancer vaccine candidate using mRNA-type technology. According to Professor Russell Petty of the University of Dundee, there are about 80 patients in the world taking part in clinical trials of this type. Based on the early data, he called the experiment potentially a game changer. The European participant of this global study is Jennifer Robertson, age 60, from Brocktree. She was recruited in 2024. Jennifer Robertson is now cancer-free after also undergoing chemotherapy and a lengthy surgery. She said that she is grateful to have played a key role in the trial. More details of this study can be found at the clinicaltrials.gov website with registration ID NCT 033137778. And lastly, let's look at digitalization and health in lower income settings. The Africa Health Security and Sovereignty, or AHSS agenda, has prioritized a rollout of digitalized primary care across Africa by the year 2035. The target has been set under Primary Healthcare Digitalization Framework of Africa Center for Disease Control and Prevention, or the Africa CDC. Recently, representatives of the Africa Union member states, United Nations agencies, development partners, and technical experts convened for a workshop in Ethiopia. The event featured several experts and professionals that identified priority areas that can benefit from greater adoption of digitalization and artificial intelligence per Africa CDC website. That's all for now. Back to Shehnoor.
That's it for this week, listeners. Technical support for this show is provided by Wahab Shahid. Podcast logo, theme music, creative and production advice is given by Imran Babar. Erin Rodgers is our editorial associate. Population Health Weekly is led by its listeners, and they are invited to participate in any competent way they can. If interested, email us at info@ideas.org.s, info@ideas.org.es.
Subscribe to our YouTube channel, Population Health Weekly, where you can also post your thoughts, comments, and imaginations. You can also subscribe to our monthly newsletter on our website, ideas.org.es. It's free. You can also donate to us through ideas.org.es and the hosting platform rss.com. All contributions will be dedicated to improving the quality of this show. The transcript of the show will be available as soon as it's posted via rss.com. If Population Health Weekly sounded interesting to you, then spread the word.
Special thanks to Junta de Andalucía and Gobierno de España for their support to autónomos that made this production possible.
Tune in next week when we answer, can algorithm-assisted care be accessible and have empathy for those growing older alone?
Empowering you to stay healthy.